Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would sit down and do a video for you guys and gals. Let me get a sip of my water first. Get my radio voice going and let's talk about this. All right, one of the biggest tips I have for hard gainers, and hard gainers means AKA undereaters. When people say silly stuff like ectomorphs, there's not actually such a real thing. It's nonsense, it's debunked pseudoscience. But a hard gainer is someone who struggles to eat enough calories to gain weight, which means they struggle to gain muscle, because most people are not going to be able to recomposition at a lighter body weight to a great degree. So these are people who are going to have to gain some body weight in order to gain muscle. Now, fortunately for them, they tend to be able to gain a lot of lean muscle easier than someone like me. So normally, for people like me, I usually recommend very high carbohydrate, very low fat, whole food carbohydrates so that we can get a very large insulin response and a very high energy turnover with good satiety so that we can eat large amounts of food, get the best possible anabolic response while minimizing fat gain. But also what tends to happen with that is carbohydrate and protein intake go up. If you're not eating enough dietary fat to gain fat, your thermic effect, your energy turnover, your metabolism, everything goes up in response to all that food over time, particularly as you train. So the issue we run into with the hard gainer, a lot of people would see that and say, well, that's a problem, right? That's a problem. Because the last thing the hard gainer needs is to, hey, let's boost my metabolic rate another 500 calories a day. This is not ideal for that situation because they already struggle to eat enough. And we don't need to be eating high satiety foods and have to get to a point to where they have to force feed them. It's not workable because a hard gainer doesn't have enough appetite to eat the calories that they need. It's not metabolism, so people need to get over that. This idea of fast and slow metabolism outside of your body weight or muscle tissue is kind of a bit of a myth. It's not been supported in the data or the lab, okay? But it is their appetite versus their energy turnover that's the problem. Protein makes it even worse. A lot of people will say stuff like, well, just give the hard gainer more protein. Not really. Because what happens when we start protein overfeeding? Our appetite gets crushed even further. Our thermic effect goes up even more. This will make it even worse. We also don't want to give them a bunch of junk food because then it's unhealthy. So what's our option for the hard gainer is to eat healthy fats. And by healthy fats, when I say that, I don't mean steak. I'm not talking about saturated fat. Healthy fats are generally going to be, in this case, polyunsaturated fats. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say not a bunch of processed ones. I've seen even some people where, yeah, they could just, knock down a bunch of, vegetable oil, but I don't recommend that. I'm talking about whole foods in this case. Perfect examples would be fatty fish, nuts, seeds, things like that. Natural peanut butter, natural almond butter, nuts in general, mixed nuts, any type of nuts, walnuts, any of the nut butters that are great for them, avocados, okay, this stuff. Now, they could put extra virgin olive oil and stuff, and that works to some extent. I think that's a good choice. It's not polyunsaturated, but it is pretty good. So what's the benefit of this? What benefits are we getting? Well, this allows them to, number one, get a lot of calories in, okay? It's going to be high caloric density. Fats are the best way to get calories in. This is why, this is why we get fat as a species. Fat is what we can store, and it's our highest calorie density. So in this case, though, what I want people to think about, when you eat large amounts of different types of fats, different stuff happens in the body. This has been studied in the metabolic ward. Right? Too much saturated fat, you become insulin resistant. People can say, I don't believe that. I'm sorry, it's pretty well supported in the literature. You can say you don't believe it, but you can also say you don't believe the world is round. You're sorry, it's just not true. It is the fact. It's how it works. Polyunsaturated fats with omega-3 being slightly better than omega-6 tend to improve insulin resensitivity. They also speed up fat oxidation more. So in other words, eating the same amount of calories from those will speed up fat burning a little more than eating the others. And it can improve insulin sensitivity. You see where we're going with this? The downstream effects will be that we will get a larger anabolic signal from the carbs and the protein that they do eat. All right, this gives us a solid anabolic response. This is why when we look at some of the studies on polyunsaturated fat intake, we find that it's actually associated with better body composition. Unless people are just eating junk food and getting obese. But it usually gives improved body composition, and it makes sense because it improves insulin sensitivity. It also can tend to be heart healthy, a better lipid profile. So this is what they can eat that will allow them to overeat enough to gain weight, but that will not negatively affect their lipid profile, will not negatively affect their heart health, will not negatively affect insulin sensitivity. And that's a big one for gaining muscle. If our goal is to put on lean muscle tissue, we should want to be as insulin sensitive as possible. This is the fat sources that are going to promote that the most. So do you see where we're going? This is if we're going to eat fats, this is the most anabolic and the healthiest fats we can eat. Anabolic meaning helping to build muscle tissue. All right, this is valuable to them because it won't turn their metabolic rate way up and make it even harder to the same degree that, say, trying to carb load, particularly fibrous carbs, will. So again, it'll keep them leaner. It will still promote a better anabolic signaling in the muscle, so a better bias of muscle towards body fat, and it will help them make the leaner gains that they need to make. Okay, because they can't do the other approach like I normally describe. Just force feed carbohydrates and keep fat really low, because they can't. They end up not being able to get into a calorie surplus at all, oftentimes, unless they're eating junk food carbohydrates, and that's not giving us the desired effect, because all the refined sugar, the same thing, we start to become more insulin resistant over time. This is not a desirable outcome. We need to keep insulin resistance high. So again, these are the foods that they should be eating. So I have my hard gainers chow down on natural peanut butter all the time. It is one of my go-to foods. But on top of that, any sort of nuts work, fatty fish work, salmon, mackerel, any of those things. Those things are good choices. Again, omega-3 fats always being a high priority, omega-6 being a second behind it. If you can get hard gainers to eat this stuff, and you do it in mostly whole food formats, that they get better nutrition, better recovery, we end up with a really good situation, right? And this is often a case for them, because these same people always complain their stomach feels full, it feels bloated, it gets stretch easy by stuff. This will reduce that from happening. Right, it will allow them to have less stomach volume, less GI tract distress, while still getting in these calories that they need, and again, promoting insulin sensitivity, right? Improved healthy insulin response, so that again, they can gain muscle easier off all of these calories. So it works really, really well, and this is usually my solution. So I mean, without going into all the details of all of those again, it's like, eat the natural peanut butter and some omega-3s and make those primary calorie sources. This is the cure for the hard gainer. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.